This year, we are embarking on a mission to explore the concept of how to enrich our chameleon husbandry. We have accomplished the goal of keeping them alive for a long and healthy life. While we'll be continuing to work on chameleon husbandry, we have gotten to the point where it's time to see how we can increase the quality of their life beyond just growing up and reproducing. And here's where we can affect forward progress if we work as a community to change standards and expectations. Today we're going to be exploring the concept of small batch breeding and how it can enrich our chameleons' lives, give greater satisfaction to us as chameleon breeders, and allow positive advancements in the community that we haven't been able to realize before. Welcome to the 9th season of the Chameleon Academy Podcast. This season is going to be a little bit more substantial than we've had before because we're looking to increase the quality of life for our chameleons and for us as breeders. And those two are tightly interwoven. And for that, we're going to take a look at a concept called small batch breeding. And so the first question we ask when getting into this topic is, what is small batch breeding? The terms we use can mean anything, and the more terms are used, it seems, the more interpretations come out. I've seen it happen with words like bioactive and chimney effect. And bioactive means more than just naturalistic, and chimney effect means more than just ventilation. And small batch breeding is more than just breeding one pair of chameleons. Small batch breeding, when approached in a way that will provoke meaningful change in our community, is not about the number of chameleons you keep, but the quality of the care you give. The idea is that you keep every chameleon in your care, including the babies, in top husbandry conditions. We use the term small batch because in most cases, the way to keep your husbandry high is to keep your numbers low. I mean, if you have the staff, spaces, and resources to keep every chameleon in a 4x2x4 naturalistic cage with varied and nutritious diet, then yeah, you can embrace the concepts of small batch breeding with a lot of chameleons. But in most cases, when we're talking about breeders within the community, they're doing it from within their house. And the breeder that this episode speaks to is the one that's trying to balance chameleons, work, family, and so the key is to limit the numbers that they keep. But once again, the important thing in all of this is that if you're saying you want to be a small batch breeder, what you are doing is you're embracing a certain level of husbandry, not a specific number of chameleons. Now, it's a fair question to ask, why are we getting into this now? We've been pushing for top husbandry for our chameleons, since the podcast started. So why is it now that this is coming up with a renewed sense of purpose? The answer may be a little deep, but I think it has to do with where we are going as a community. We in the community have been having a struggle of sorts between what we're calling breeder care and keeper care. Keeper care has been the embrace of anything that might make your chameleon's life better, while what we're calling breeder care is what's the most time and space effective while still keeping the chameleon alive, growing, and reproducing. Now, I'd much prefer when we're getting into a discussion like that to evolve from those terms into using the terms naturalistic and minimalistic, because every person is a balance between the two. Every person, keeper or breeder, is figuring out how to fit the project that they want into the space, time, and money that they have available. Every keeper balances their chameleon investment with everything else they have going on in their life, and every breeder is also a keeper. So I'd like to elevate this discussion from the person's label and bring it into a chosen approach. We have come to a point where the direction that we as a community need to go to increase the quality of life for our chameleon is beyond what is easy to implement in a breeder type setup. And this has produced two directions for our husbandry which are increasingly at odds. And it's not just a chameleon community thing. This is happening across all the reptile communities. You see the latest thoughts centering around the quality of life for the reptile getting into dramatic clashes with the minimalistic breeders. Yes, this has caused a clash in the chameleon community, true, but if you really want to see some fireworks, go check out the ball python community. So what do? It used to be that if you were able to breed the chameleons, you were looked to as an expert. And now we're starting to look more at the ability to keep a chameleon long-term with an enriched life as the guideline. But this is a new area, and we don't know how to measure quality of life for a chameleon. This is part of the next stage of growth. And with these discussions, eventually somebody asks, why is it acceptable for a chameleon to be either in the top level naturalistic environment or the minimalistic breeding environment. It's the same chameleon, shouldn't be the same standard of care. This is a good point, and it's something that we have to work towards. But I'm going to leave the philosophical discussions on that for another space. In season 9 of the Chameleon Academy podcast, I want to work on proving that small batch breeding, with everything that it means, is a viable alternative to what we are doing now. First is implementing the high husbandry quality standards for people just keeping the adult chameleons. This is basically an exercise in discipline and not collecting beyond what you can take care of. The second stage is where it gets really interesting, because that's where we start looking at breeding. And that's what the bulk of this episode is going to talk about, because that's where our huge challenge comes in as a community. And third, we're going to explore small batch breeding as implemented as a network of breeders that are more effectively able to create captive hatched chameleons for the general community. And make no mistake, this is a project that's going to take many years to prove out, so this is a long-term project. We all may as well get comfortable. Proving it out in the real world is a critical step, because we can pontificate about the chameleon quality of life all we want. But until we can show that there's a viable alternative that works in real life, it's only words. Let's not demand that the breeders who have their system set up and working change their ways until we can absolutely prove that there is a better way. Now, I know for a fact that there are some passionate naturalistic keepers that just want to ban and do away with all the minimalistic care right here and now. I understand your position, and we all have our place in this community to help it move forward, and our opinions as to how to best do that. In my case, my place is here to try to prove out that there actually is a solution. And with a small group of breeders to work with me for a couple, few, maybe many years, this will be an interesting direction to experiment with, and we can test it out. That way, when we suggest a different way, the people that we're talking to don't bear the burden of the expense and risk of implementing our ideas. The burden of proof is upon us, and we accept that. Now you may ask, why is this such a big deal? Why is this such a challenge for a chameleon keeper? Don't you just avoid collecting more than you can handle? And the answer is yes, well, at least for that first stage. You simply use self-control to put money, time, and resources towards upgrading your present setup instead of expanding it. And this is a great way to embody the concept. The second stage, where you try your first breeding, is where the challenge hits. This is called small batch breeding, of course. And the reason why it's so hard for us chameleon people to embrace this is because chameleons have large clutches of offspring. You may have no problem keeping your 2 adult chameleons in luxury conditions, but as soon as those eggs hatch, you're suddenly thrown into the deep end of the pool. There's a huge outlay of money and space if you want to keep your baby chameleons in those luxury husbandry conditions. And since they're going to be sold in 3, 4, 5 months anyways, is it really worth it to do that? Add to that the chameleon community is just slowly waking up to the value of purchasing a juvenile chameleon that had an enriched childhood. At this point, you're compared to other breeders in terms of color if you're a panther breeder, or price if you're a veiled chameleon breeder. Carpets and Parsons, well, they're purchased just on the account that they exist. The point is, if you adopt for your hatchling care the small batch breeding quality of husbandry, there's a strong argument that at this point it's not a good business decision. And so we're going to have to be thinking about something besides what's good for business. And so if we're going to be establishing new standards and moving the community forward, we're going to have to be thinking on another level beyond profit. Now, the reason why I know that this naturalistic, enriched approach is going to take hold in the community is that there's a number of prominent community members that will do it because that's the way they want to be involved with chameleons. They are not skewing everything to what is most cost-effective or space-effective. So the benefits of raising hatchlings up in these top quality conditions will start to be shown. My absolute dream for my community would be that when a person starts shopping for a chameleon, they start looking for a breeder that raises their babies in the absolute best husbandry environment. Now, let's take a time out and let's discuss what is top quality hatchling care. I'm being careful in this episode not to say what the top quality hatchling care is. That needs to be worked out every year. And as we in the community are experimenting with how to increase the quality of life, we're going to be working with bigger cages, better lights, better hydration methods, bioactive, and basically treating the hatchlings like they are little adults. The thing is, they're not just small adults. There are special requirements and balances that need to be worked out. It would be easy to assume that full naturalistic or bioactive would be the best hatchling care. And I believe that to be true, but I've been around long enough to know it may take time to establish what the best parameters are, and it'll be a growth process over the years. Stick around the back alleys of herpetoculture, and you'll run into many circumstances where the breeder came in with full bioactive, naturalistic, and ended up going back to minimalistic because they got better results using the minimalistic care. Does this mean that reptiles do better when you remove stimulus from their lives? No. But what it does mean is we haven't figured out how to get the benefits from providing an enriching environment without deficiencies in our execution. Have you ever said that X animal will stress out if you put them in a larger cage? What they're really saying is they haven't figured out how to set up a cage effectively enough to make the reptile comfortable. New skills and techniques need to be developed. Anytime anyone says that getting closer to nature, even if it's in baby steps, is detrimental to the reptile, you know what is really being said is we just haven't figured out how to do it correctly. And thus you have the toxic dynamic between the people who have given up trying to do more than the minimalistic and those who are dedicated to working it out and moving forward. In the specific case with chameleons, we're just now starting to explore treating individual baby chameleons like full projects in themselves. And so there's going to be enormous growth that we're going to see in the coming years. But we also need to accept that there will be some dead ends. There's going to be some things that we try that don't work. And we need to continue figuring it out. So it's okay if the definition of top quality care evolves over the years. In fact, I'd be highly disappointed in me and all of us if it didn't. The key mindset for those of us who are defining what high quality, enriched care for hatchlings is, should be that we prove it before we speak loudly about it. We try it ourselves. We share amongst each other. Once many of us are doing it successfully, we can then present it to the community and share our findings. And if they truly are superior, then we won't have to convince anyone. The cool thing about the community as it is right now is that there's a concentration of like-minded people coalescing around the Chameleon Academy live sessions that are happening twice a week on YouTube. There are more than enough of us to try out new standards and work out details before they're presented to the general community as a way to go. And just to be clear, this isn't a Chameleon Academy exclusive. Yes, me and the Chameleon Academy community are doing this. I mean, this is what it's all about. But anyone can do this. Anyone can try out things that may make for better chameleon husbandry. I encourage it. So let's get back to what we were talking about. My dream is for the buying public to reward breeders who invest in quality husbandry for hatchlings. When someone can't sell a individually raised panther chameleon hatchling that was given an enriched environment for more than someone who just bin raised their baby, that spells problems for general acceptance. Of course, the breeders who are doing it because they feel strongly that they want to give their babies the absolute best life possible won't stop doing it, but anyone with a business mindset will give it a hard look. And to be clear, I completely support making money from breeding. We absolutely need breeders to keep our community growing. And we won't want our breeders switching over their processes until we know that it absolutely truly is better. This will be a slow process because we do have to prove that what we're talking about will produce a better hatchling. Simultaneously, we're going to have to grow awareness in the general community, the buying public, to look for this value and to financially reward the breeders that put in this extra effort. This is a realistic way that a community moves forward. We prove out a method, then we generate awareness within the community as to the benefits of this method, and that is all we have to do. If the customers value the quality of hatchling care, the breeders will deliver. If the customer community started valuing how hatchling chameleons were raised up, it would totally change the landscape of the entire chameleon community for the better. It's a tall order, and it would take a long time to grow within the community. But imagine what it would look like if breeders were able to make a better living in step with the increase in quality of care that they gave their hatchlings. Right now, a breeder is incentivized to produce quantity. And when quantity is where the money comes in, the husbandry provided favors being able to produce large numbers. You see the challenge here? Not only do we have to come up with a grand idea, we have to prove it works. And then we've got to show the community why it's worth valuing with their wallets. And the third level is for the breeders at the professional level. We would have to work out how small batch breeding methods could be profitable for a breeder. I don't know a breeder that wouldn't embrace small batch breeding concepts if it could be done profitably. And I think this is a worthy goal for us to work out. How do we make quality profitable? So this is a bit of an ambitious goal, and I think we'll leave this for a later time. For now, it's enough to take onto our plate to make small batch breeding work for the individual and the hobbyist. Once we tackle that, we'll go on to the next step. Now, there are two main questions that remain in this conversation. The first is, what is the value of small batch breeding? And the second is, what would it actually look like in practice? So we can discuss the benefits and the reasons first, and then we'll close up with a proposed scenario as to how to actually make it work. I've done a lot of thinking about small batch breeding, and the question, why are we doing this? What is the actual benefit? Has been on my mind for a while. And I've come up with three main groups of benefits, and I'm going to share them with you. They're going to be benefits for the chameleon, for the breeder, and for the community. And I think whenever we go forward and develop our small batch breeding projects, we should do that with these three groups in mind. First of all, the benefit to the chameleon, and that's obvious. Each chameleon is given the absolute best husbandry. They have a roomy, naturalistic environment that provides a balance between safety and stimulation. Now, we pretty much try to do that already, but the biggest shift is going to be in hatchling care. They are going from the stressful situation of being group raised in a bin to having their own lushly planted terrarium with the mental stimulation that comes from that. The next benefit is for the breeder. And although we can never speak in absolutes, I think that I'm not going too far out on a limb to say that having a chameleon in a large naturalistic enclosure is more enjoyable than having one in a small, sparse cage. We end up with small, sparse cages if we're just starting off and that's all we've been exposed to. Or else it's when we dilute our efforts because we are adding more chameleons than we have the time, resources, or space for. And we don't seem to catch that the dopamine hit of adding another chameleon does not translate out into long-term satisfaction. We end up lost in the amount of work it takes to maintain minimum standards while not being able to spend the time enjoying our chameleons like we used to. Obviously, everybody has a different experience, but please allow me to generalize to make the point. And finally, there's a benefit to the community. No matter what we do, we should always think about the effects on the community. Positive effects can be as big as starting a nonprofit to plant trees in Madagascar, to as personal as taking care of your chameleon in a way that inspires you and you becoming an inspiration to others. It's all connected. As we work out the details of implementing small batch breeding, these are the community level benefits I would like to keep in mind. First, we can establish a species in captivity. If we are successful embracing the concepts of small batch breeding as an individual, then the next step is to network with each other and create a tight-knit community of small batch breeders that can support each other. There will always be someone who has too many babies and other people that would like to add to their bloodlines. But, and you'll see where I'm going with this, if that tight-knit community decided to work on a particular species, then that would be an ideal situation to establish a species in captivity. As you've heard me say, if imports stopped right now, we would be left with panthers and veileds being actively bred and carpet chameleons and Parsons chameleons in the wings, which would be a seriously sad state to be left in after how far we have come and how much we have learned. And this is why I am doing this project with the shamrock chameleon. Us proving out the concept of small batch breeding could very well establish a species of chameleon in parallel. Once that is done, the model can be replicated for any species that we have interested breeders and time left on the environmental destruction clock. 2. Raising our standard of husbandry raises our standing in the outside world. The truth is that our ability to keep reptiles lies in the hands of politicians that have no idea what we do. They listen to lobbyists and, in some cases, their constituents, but they also watch the news. The more the people on social media show off their beautiful enclosures with vibrant, healthy chameleons, the more a good view of us disseminates into the general population. This is critical for our future. And 3, I think this will usher in a whole new era of bragging rights. In the past, we would brag about how many species we've kept, or how many chameleons we have, or how colorful our chameleon is. I love seeing that more and more people are taking pride in how their enclosure looks and what kind of husbandry they are providing. More than just for the sake of bragging rights and things to say on social media, this shift in the community affects the manufacturers. We have larger enclosures because of this movement. We have dimmable UVB lights because of this. We have an ever-increasing variety of feeder insects. Why? Because our increased desire for better husbandry has created an awareness and a demand for it. The more we care about the level of husbandry we provide, the more other people care about the level of husbandry they provide. And the more people that care about the husbandry, the more the manufacturers listen and hear. The manufacturers have learned that there are more and more people willing to pay for quality items. And so we have better tools available to us. More people are willing to pay for vet visits because they consider a chameleon a valued member of the family rather than a trophy on the wall. Thus, more vets are able to specialize in exotic care. And you see how this is all an upward spiral that creates better equipment for us, better care for our chameleons, and a better life for both the chameleons and us. And it all starts with us feeling strongly about providing the best husbandry possible. So I'd say that's a convincing argument. Now, what would one of these small batch breeding setups look like? And that is a question that may take a number of years to answer. But this is a community effort, so I expect and welcome other perspectives and ideas. What follows can serve as a starting point for discussions. When we start off, we don't know how many chameleons we'll be able to fit in our available time, space, and money. And so I recommend you start off with one chameleon, maybe a pair, and dedicate yourself to giving them the absolute best husbandry possible. Give yourself the time to research and build it up. And you can work with your one chameleon or pair for as long as you want to. There's no hurry, there's no deadline. During this time, I encourage you to be aware of what brings you joy in your chameleon keeping. And I'm serious about this. The happier you are with your chameleon keeping, the better care your chameleon's going to get. What brings you satisfaction? And the main reason for this is if you know what brings you satisfaction and you're consciously aware of it, you'll be in a better position to know when the work is becoming such that you're not having the same level of joy and satisfaction. Yes, our mission is to care for our chameleons, but I want to introduce the idea that it's important that you take care of yourself as well in this. And this really is one of the main reasons for introducing the small batch breeding concept. And as I said, you can stay in this perfect stage for as long as you want. In fact, there's no reason why you ever have to go beyond this point. If you are happy, then stay where you're happy. The reason why you need to seriously consider whether you want more chameleons or get into breeding, which, is more chameleons, is that it's a quantum leap in the amount of work. I cannot deny that seeing those tiny little dragon faces hatch out of that egg makes it all worth it for me. But there are serious consequences to the fact of nature that breeding chameleons generally throws you in the deep end. You have one or two chameleons and then suddenly you have 30. Well, that escalated quickly. And then the level of husbandry that you can spend on all the chameleons takes that 100% that you were spending on 2 chameleons and spreads it out over 30. Generally speaking, this has meant that you go from naturalistic husbandry to minimalistic husbandry. And this is where burnout lurks around the corner. And I consider this a huge problem in the chameleons community, which is really nobody's fault. It's just part of what chameleons are. To get involved with breeding, your workload skyrockets, and there usually isn't a network there to support you. Chameleon breeder burnout is all too common. You might ask, why is that a problem? People come and go for many reasons. Why do we care so much about a solution to this problem? The answer is that it's the breeders that have the experience with the entire life cycle of a species. They have a deeper understanding of a species than someone who buys a juvenile and just raises it up. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and that's the best way to start off with chameleons. Don't mess with babies until you're more experienced. But there needs to be a pool in the community of people that have deep experience to understand all aspects of husbandry to make sure that the care guides that are out there are accurate. It's kind of like everybody can use a calculator, but we still need a handful of people that understand the math and the engineering to create a calculator. So the rest of us don't have to know how to do it, and we can concentrate on other things. Same with chameleons. And the reason why that matters to me, and I argue should matter to the rest of the community, is that breeders hold that deep knowledge. If they continuously burn out, then we are losing the people who are gaining the critical experience to keep our community tribal knowledge strong. And don't take this lightly. There is so much information out there available for free that websites have popped up and authority figures have popped up based solely on researching all of this information instead of keeping chameleons. Once our experts are all data harvesters, our forward movement stops. And what is known is just repackaged instead of being built upon. And this is not conjecture. This is happening right now. I'm not being philosophical. I am straight up warning you that this is becoming the norm. We all need to learn the skills of not judging our sources by their confidence, but for us to check our sources for actual verifiable experience. With good free husbandry information that's readily available for scraping, and especially with AI becoming ubiquitous, there will be more and more expert sources that do not have the experience in the things they are presenting themselves as experts on. We need to retain our true community experience. So if we can find something that reduces the danger of burning out, I believe it's something worth exploring. We transition from simple, responsible herpetoculture to small batch breeding when you make the decision to breed. Where this deviates from what we're doing now is you also have to decide how many babies you're going to be able to provide that top level husbandry. Let's take me for an example. I can maintain the top level husbandry where each chameleon is named and each one gets a silkworm hand fed to them every day with 2 adults and 6 babies. Now, if I double that so I can have 2 bloodlines, I'm at the maximum I can handle before I start creeping towards minimalistic. And so that's me. Everyone's going to have different situations and different numbers. Once again, it's not the number that represents the spirit of the small batch breeding concept. It's the quality of care that each one of them receives. Now, to make this scenario work, there needs to be a place for babies to go. My shamrocks are producing about 20 egg clutches. And so that would mean that I would have to find homes for 14 hatchlings per clutch. And this is where a network of breeders will come in. If I had a tight-knit group of shamrock chameleon breeders, then I would have a ready group of breeders that would be able and interested in adding my bloodlines to theirs. I would be able to distribute to these already known and established breeders who are experienced in hatchling care. Then there could be some cooperation as to who would breed when to make sure that we don't saturate the market, because saturating the market has been the death of so many breeding projects in the past. So there are multiple aspects to this plan that need to be worked out. And I'm sure we're going to have many adventures and misadventures as we work out what a small batch breeding project really looks like. But how about if you allow me to dream a little bit? Say we do have a cooperative, a network of breeders for a certain species, say my shamrock chameleons. There very well could be someone who just enjoys having large naturalistic enclosures in their home. There could be somebody that just gets a charge out of raising up baby chameleons. Could a tight-knit group have different people performing different aspects of the breeding process? Is it possible to find this level of trust, cooperation, and grace if something goes wrong within a group of people? I suppose it would depend on what the priorities of the participants were. This is a question to be explored amongst the networks that are built up. But there is so much potential of what we can achieve if we find a group that has a dedication to a common goal. This will be a long-term project. It'll probably take 5 years before we have a working model for analysis. If I'm able to get fertile eggs from my group, I won't have any available for the other breeders until the middle of 2025. And then it'll be another 2 to 3 years before the F1 breeders are able to have offspring of their own. And so we do have some time before we've got to figure out the next challenges. We need to be patient, but the upside is we have the time. Now, if you're interested in following along with the progress of this small batch breeding concept and the discussions around its complications and benefits, there are 2 places you can check in. First, you can join me on one of my live sessions on YouTube. Currently, they are Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, and Saturday at 12 noon Pacific. These are interactive, so you can come ask questions or just get updates on the project. These are great places to join because this is where my group of keepers and breeders who are interested in working through the small batch breeding concept gather and, well, we talk. Second, I'm releasing a daily vlog on YouTube with a new episode every morning at 5 a.m. Pacific time. In this vlog, I take you along on the day-to-day chores as I work out how I'm going to be implementing the small batch breeding concept. And of course, you get a behind-the-scenes look at everything that I do to put on this Chameleon Academy resource. This is the first episode in Season 9 of the Chameleon Academy Podcast. Each season has built on the one before, and we are at the level where we're looking at new ways of breeding and continuing to explore better husbandry for our mini tree dragons. This is an exhilarating time because we're at the transition point from the growth stage of breeding our chameleons reliably to developing protocols for providing for their mental enrichment. There is so much for us to do, and we have hit the ground running. This is Bill Strand signing off. I'll see you next time.